Hello, everyone. This video is about the hand. So here we are. Obviously, this is the hand of a human. This is the dorsal surface. This is the palmar surface. And of course, this is a right hand. So the first thing that we're going to go over is just the basic structure of the hand. So we have the carpals. That's these little bones right here. We have the metacarpals, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we have the phalanges. So there are 2 in the thumb and 3 in each of the fingers. So we have the proximal phalange, the middle phalange, and the distal phalange. And each of these articulation points has a joint name. So for example, between the metacarpal and the phalange, it's the metacarpophalangeal joint. Between the 1 phalange and the 2 phalange, we have the interphalangeal joint. But because this one is closer to the trunk of the body, this one is the proximal interphalangeal joint. This one is the distal interphalangeal joint. And these are also known as hip and dip, proximal interphalangeal, PIP, distal interphalangeal, DIP. So this is pip and this is dip. Hello. Okay. So we have the carpals, metacarpals, phalanges. There are 14 phalanges, by the way, 5 carpals, or I'm sorry, 5 metacarpals. And then we have these little carpals right here, and they fit together very nicely. Okay, they articulate with the metacarpals at the carpo-metacarpal joints. And they look very different on the posterior than they do on the anterior here. In fact, if you look at them from the side, you see some pretty big landmarks, like this one here. This is called the pisiform. There's one right here. That one right there, that's the hook of the hamate. Okay, you've got another landmark right there. Okay, and I do want to show you something since we're talking about the carpals. If you look at them like this, okay, so you're kind of looking straight on at them right there. What you'll notice, let me get my pen here for a second, is that they make a bit of a C shape. See, straight on, there's a C shape right there. So you have this landmark right here, and then you have this landmark over here. And in between, there's a dip or a C shape, right? See that? Okay. That literally is the carpal tunnel. So when we talk about carpal tunnel syndrome, right? Or when we talk about what's in the carpal tunnel, this is the carpal tunnel. It is a tunnel made by the landmarks of the carpals. Okay. Now you know. All right, let's talk about those. Sharing the screen, sharing the screen. It takes a minute to share the screen. Here we are. Each of the carpals has a name. And you can figure out where you are by finding like 1 or 2 really specific carpals and their landmarks. So I'd mentioned before that this one on the side here, this one's a pretty significant landmark. This is the pisiform. It's not actually attached to the triquetrum, but you know, how else are you going to make a plastic bone? So it looks like it's attached, but it's not actually. It's a separate bone. So this is the pisiform right here. Okay. And the pisiform is really easy to pick out because it's this right there. All right. Everybody can feel their pisiform. It's the lateral side of their hand on the palmar surface. That's the pisiform. So once you know where that is, you can kind of figure out every other one from there, right? So you have the pisiform, and just posterior to that, if you're looking at, I mean, remember that in anatomical position, the palm is facing forward. So just posterior to that is a carpal called the triquetrum. It's qu, not k. Triquetrum. It's a weird pronunciation, but there you are. Okay, is just behind that. So there's the triquetrum. Pardon me. And then if we're moving closer to the radius and the ulna, then we encounter the lunate. And then this one over here is the scaphoid. Okay, the scaphoid is sort of a half moon shape. It's kind of a round shape, like this. It goes like this. That's the scaphoid. And honestly, if you're on the posterior side here and you find Lister's tubercle, then right there is the scaphoid. So we're over here on this side, over here on this side. It's the same bone, same landmark. We're just on different sides. So if you can find Lister's tubercle, you can find the scaphoid. Okay. All right. So we had pisiform, triquetrum, lunate, scaphoid, and then we work our way around. So the scaphoid then articulates with another one right here. This is the trapezium. And then right next to the trapezium is the trapezoid. So right here, right there. Next to the trapezoid, we have the capitate. And then next to that is the hamate. And remember, you have this landmark right here. This is the hook of the hamate. Right? It's a nice big landmark there, the hook of the hamate. Okay. So that's a palmar view. Now we can do this on a dorsal view as well. Okay. Again, if you know where the pisiform is, you know that just posterior to the pisiform is the triquetrum, right? And we can go across this way now. So triquetrum, lunate, sorry, I'll get a little closer, lunate, scaphoid, right? The scaphoid is closest to the wrist or articulates and makes the wrist, right? Then we have this one right here, which is the trapezium, then trapezoid, then capitate, which is a big one, and then the hamate. Now, on the posterior side, of course, you cannot see the hook of the hamate, which is fine, obviously, but this is still the hamate, okay? If you break them apart, this is what they look like. Some of them have little landmarks like the scaphoid tubercle. I'm not really worried about that. The only thing that I kind of want you to know really is the hook of the hamate, okay, because that's part of the carpal tunnel there. And actually the trapezium tubercle as well, because that makes the other side of that carpal tunnel, okay? Go into visible body here and check out the hand, right? I kind of like how they separate these a little bit so that you can see each one. So that's the scaphoid, right? They only name a few though, which is a little strange. I'm not really sure why. So anyway, there's the pisiform, there's the hamate. So there's the hook of the hamate, lunate, scaphoid. Okay. So you can look in your visible body here to check those out. They also show, and we're frozen. Awesome. So they also show in here the interosseous membrane, which I really like because your book doesn't show that very often. In between the lower leg bones, right, in between the tibia and fibula, you had an interosseous membrane. You have the same thing between the radius and the ulna. It's just a thin membrane that connects the radius and the ulna together, okay, and separates sort of the anterior from the posterior muscles in there, all right? Okay, so what I want you to do is study the carpals specifically because the rest of these are pretty easy, metacarpals, phalanges. It's just like the toes. And I'd like you to try to come up with a mnemonic device to remember the carpals, but you have to remember them in order. You can't just be like, okay, this one, this one, this one, this one. I want you to go in a specific order. So down across the bottom and then across the top, or across the top and then down across the bottom. Whatever makes sense to you, however you can remember it is fine. But mnemonics really help you remember the names of each of those carpal bones, especially since 3 of them start with a T. All right, that's it for the hand. I will see you soon.